Here we are at High Desert School, and they are a Medal of Honor school. And today they're going to have a special surprise guest, a Medal of Honor recipient, come to speak to them at their Medal of Honor rally. So we're going to go in and see what that's about today. So we're waiting for the students to walk into the MPR gymnasium for the special rally to meet the special guest. And apparently this is a Medal of Honor recipient that they saw a little vignette on yesterday, and so they all were learning about different Medal of Honor recipients, and they were doing what they usually do with Medal of Honor, where they talk a little bit about what it is and the values. And apparently they had a little vignette on the speaker who's going to be here today. So this is going to be a surprise for them to actually see that he's here in person.
Character Development Program. This year we're doing something a little different, where we have asked our 8th grade students to be the leaders here on campus. And so they have been working really hard to learn about Medal of Honor, what it is, what it means, and what those core values are that those recipients represent. So, when they come into your classrooms, they're going to be helping you learn a little bit more about Medal of Honor, introducing you to some of the Medal of Honor recipients that are on the website, so you can get to know who they are, and just being there to get to know you as well. So we're building relationships today. So you might be in the 8th graders with 5th grade students, or you might be with 6th grade or 7th grade. But they are going to, the 8th graders are our leaders today on campus, and they're going to facilitate the lessons. So we're really excited about that. Welcome, come on in.
They do the 5 series.
I thought we needed a few. That's today. We have some people here from our district office that wanted to see what's happening in High Desert School and the good things that you're doing. So this is a celebration for us today, and we have Mrs. King here, our superintendent, that wants to come and say a few words to you as well.
Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. This is a very special day. So I wanted to talk to you about a couple of different things. The first one is I want to introduce you to board members. Board members are folks that govern our school district, and they help us out and provide for us all the things you have in front of you, like textbooks, paper, pens, pencils, teachers, walls, grass, furniture. So we have with us our board clerk, Mr. Ken Falsgraf. And our newest board member, Mr. Brandon Roque. We also have with us today from the district office, Dr. Cooper. We have with us who works with me in the superintendent's office, Mr. Ryan McCauley. I think from the district office, I think you already know him. He's out here somewhere. I think it's Alejandro Heradosia. I want to thank the principal for helping to facilitate and allow this great celebration to occur today. So a big hand for Dr. Weiss. And I want to share with you just a couple quick things. Last year I got invited to a Medal of Honor speaker and a seminar. One thing you may not know about your teachers is that they do other things outside of your classroom. Ms. Alford, outside of the classroom, presents on the Medal of Honor. So she goes around the country and shares the purpose of Medal of Honor and what it is, and has Medal of Honor recipients share their experiences from their time in their service. It's a way to thank them, it's a way to honor them, and it's a way to hear their stories, which are so critical to history and understanding history. So I want to thank Ms. Van Ornum and Ms. Alford for all of their work in putting today together. Can we give them a big hand, please? And the last people I want to thank, who are critically important, is you, because I was in your ASB class the other day, and I got to see firsthand the kind of leadership you have at your school. I also got to see the kind of leadership you have at the high school. Because 2 years ago, when I saw those 8th graders and met them, I see they're providing the kind of leadership now as 10th graders. And the current 9th graders were last year's 8th graders. And I met the 8th graders ASB class just the other day, and they're fabulous. So you as leaders are doing some wonderful things at your school site, and you're showing that today and modeling that today for our 5th and 6th grade students. And they're going to see some fabulous things when you go out to those classrooms. So I want to give a big hand and a shout out to our 8th grade leadership. And before I turn this back over to Ms. Alford, I just really want to thank you again for this day. As somebody who served 4 years in the U.S. Army from 1988 to 1991, I'm very, very proud to observe the celebration, be part of it, to see all the wonderful things your school has done to honor service members. And so thank you so much.
That I had the opportunity to spend a couple of days with this week. And that was Sergeant Leroy, Master Sergeant Leroy Petry.
In fact, I brought a couple of things I want to pass around. You probably saw the cool arm that I had in the video, the robotic arm, and I probably didn't show you this part. This is the conversation starter. I couldn't do that before, but one thing I want to do is I want to thank your superintendent, the principal, and your teachers for allowing me to be here. I appreciate what they do. Taking the time to teach you all is an important task. I have 4 kids of my own. They went through school with my son's a sophomore in high school, and I think about those teachers all the time because they're the ones teaching him while I'm not home, and they're the ones getting him ready for the world, which is a tough place. It is. Sometimes you're going to face challenges, and that's what adversity is out there everywhere. You're going to have challenges in life, and I had the same one when I lost my arm and I got shot. I thought I wasn't going to be able to do anything. I thought, how am I going to get a job to support my wife and kids? What am I going to do? My dream of being a ranger my whole life is over. And then I realized it's not over. That I just had to find, when I hit that wall, I just had to find a different direction to go. And that I had a lot of friends and family and leaders and peers that I could reach out to for help. And that's the one thing that I never realized as a young adult, a young kid, is that I didn't ask for help. I thought I had to do everything on my own. I was embarrassed to ask for help. I didn't want to go say, hey, can you help me with this question? I didn't want to go up to the teacher and say, I don't understand what you taught today. Can you show me a little bit more? And so I suffered for it. And I hung around with kids that weren't the best of kids, that were gangs and ditching school. And into high school, I realized when I got my report card, I was failing my parents. I was failing my family. I was failing myself. I was letting them down because I wasn't trying. I gave up. I looked at my report card and I had all F's and 1 D. And I said, that's not who I am. That's not who I want to be. That's not how I want people to look at me, as a failure. I want to try harder. And so I stopped hanging around with the kids that were talking me into doing the wrong thing and weren't supporting me. And I started hanging around with the kids that were positively impacting me and supporting me. And I ended up making straight A's my senior year in high school. And I loved it. And I look at when I was your age, and I think if I could go back, I'd kick myself in the behind and say, hey, get started a little bit earlier, realizing that this stuff's important. And it's going to carry you on through the rest of your life. And it'll define who you are as a person. And there's so many things out there to do, like I said, with the robotics. I don't know if you could pass this around. Here, Marilyn. And thank you to my good friend Marilyn for allowing me to come here as well.
Okay, we need this back today.
And the FBI tracks it. Don't try running out with it.
You want me to pass it?
Here. But, try to pass them quickly so everybody gets a chance to see them. One of the things, when I lost my hand, I thought, oh man, if I get out of here, if I make it alive, I'm going to get a hook, which I do have a hook. I was actually a pirate for Halloween. I had the real equipment. But I have knives to cut food in the kitchen. I have a pizza cutter. All these different things, like you saw, the hand comes off the arm, and I could do just about anything. I never golfed before, and they told me they had a golf attachment. So I started golfing, and I realized you only hold yourself back from doing things. And the thing they talked about, courage, and were you ever afraid going to war? Absolutely. Every single day I was afraid. I wasn't afraid of getting killed. I knew what I was doing. I knew the risk. I'm more afraid of the highways than I am being in war. Those places are dangerous, but I knew I had a good team around me, and I knew what I was out there for. And so what I had a fear of was that I would fail one of my guys to my right or to my left. And when I joined in the Army, the saying was, be all you can be. And it wasn't for yourself, it was for the people to your right and to your left, the people that you love. And that's a big word for a Ranger to say. We don't really use it in the Army, and definitely not in the Rangers, unless we're talking about, oh, I love beer. Oh, I love video games, something like that. And but that's exactly what happened that day. When I reached over and I grabbed that grenade that was sitting next to those two guys, I looked at them like my kids. I looked at them like my brothers. I looked at them, now I can look back and say, I could look at them as any other person, even a stranger, and I would have done the same for them, because it's the right thing to do. And it was the love for another human, another person in our country. Even the people overseas. When I was your age, that's when I first decided I wanted to be in the Army. I saw it on television. Guys were deployed in Desert Storm and Desert Shield. And I really started asking the questions because my mom's cousin was deployed. And I said, well, what is he over there fighting for? We don't even know any of those people. He's going to risk his life for those people? And then I realized he wasn't doing it for them. He was doing it for us. And he was risking his life for all of us back here at home, his family, and the people he had never met across our country. And I realized that when I went overseas. I realized what I was over there for, but then I realized even more, the stuff you don't get to see on television. When I went over there my first time to Afghanistan in 2002, there was no paved roads. Girls weren't going to school. And going back, I still go back every now and then to visit. Now there's schools, there's roads just about everywhere. I was flying out on a helicopter and looking down in the night, there's neon lights everywhere, and there are tons of people in the streets, and they're having a great time. And I met one of the women that was serving on Parliament. I was like, wow, things are changing for the better. People are getting to have their own choice. There's a lot of people over there were held back. Most of the country had less than a second grade level education, which means every one of you is probably smarter than 80% of the population there. So that whole, are you smarter than a fifth grader? None of them were. Well, very few, but now it's turning around. Now they're getting educated, they're making their own decisions, they're finding out they can stand up for what they want in their lives. And they can help their families and their communities. But it always comes at a cost. And it's tough. And I talk about that in my own life. I try to travel, I'm on the road 220 days out of the year. How many days in the year? How many in a calendar year? How many full days?
360.
No, 365.
You got it, 365. So 220 is a good portion of that number. And I've been doing this for 8 years. And the hard part for me is I was on a lot of deployments and I missed my family. And now I keep leaving home, I'm still missing my family. And so they know what I get to go do though, and they know the positive impact. And so they still support me. And so I do this for you all, for them, for all of us. And I told your superintendent, like I tell a lot of folks, that I get to make an impact today, to be here today in your school and talk to you all. But your teachers and your whole school board and superintendent, principals, they get to make an impact in your future. What they're sharing with you is going to carry you for a lifetime. It's going to prepare you for the best, to be your best. But how many of you all go out and play Army out when you're playing with your friends? Sweet. I got my Army socks on today. Little green men. Because I don't think does anybody go out and play Air Force?
I play airsoft.
Wow. What about, anybody go play Navy? Few people. Anybody play Coast Guard? Got a couple. I gotta figure out how you play Coast Guard, because I didn't do a whole lot with the Coast Guard. But we give each other a hard time in the military, whether we're Army, Navy, all this and that. But at the end of the day, we can have our conflicts. Oh, Army's better, Navy's better. But when it comes down to us getting our job done, we work together. And that's the whole part of being a team. And that's the other part I love about this program, is it causes you to be a team. And I know, where's the 8th graders at? All righty. And I know you all are going to be a big influence for the rest of the students in this school. And I'll tell you, as a guy that I just left the Army less than 5 years ago, or just 5 years ago, and when we get out of the Army, the first thing we go to try to find is, where's all the veterans at? Where's the veterans that have been out for 10 years, 30 years, however long? Because we want to ask them questions. What are you doing? And we get into a job, we say, how do you do this? Even when you join the military, you go to basic training, you're looking to ask questions from the people that have done it before, and they're going to show you how to do things. And so you guys have a huge responsibility as 8th graders to not only better yourselves, but to look out for the ones that are going to be here to lead the next generation. I get a chance to meet a lot of neat people, and my son, some people get jealous and they're like, oh, you get to meet all kinds of celebrities, football players, basketball players, and what's that like? And I said, it's neat. I said, they're celebrities, rock stars and presidents, and I said, but I don't look at them as somebody of fame. I look at them and I say, okay, great. You've made this wealth, you've earned this stardom. That's awesome, but what are you doing with it? Is it still all about you? How am I going to benefit from this? What do I get out of this? Or is it about helping others? Because if you have nothing but self-interest in what you're doing, then you'll never have a team. And you'll be isolated, you'll be alone. And that's your choice, though, as an individual. Because in this world, we're never alone. From the time you're born, somebody taught you how to eat, taught you how to change your diapers for you, bathed you, showed you how to do it on your own. Your teachers are educating you now. Your friends to your left and right. You'll always have somebody that you can reach out to and ask questions to. So don't be afraid to ask questions. That's the best way you're going to learn. And I didn't tell you about Tommy. Tommy's been with me for about 3 years almost. And what he helps me with is the gunshots that I got through both my legs. He helps me with my mobility, and that's really the reason I'm sitting down, because I'm up here burning up, because when I stand for too long in one spot, I get pain in my legs still, pretty bad. And people that know my story will come up to me and say, "Oh, wow, how you doing? Oh, that's an awesome arm." And they sometimes forget that I got shot through both my legs. And I don't know if you guys are learning about the human body and science or not, but there's two of your biggest arteries run down your legs, the femoral arteries. And when I got shot, that bullet was not a small bullet, and it went through both of my thighs and missed all the arteries and all the bone. So that to me was a miracle. The other hard part for me was one of our guys came out to support us in that same compound that day, and he got killed. He's from California. Left behind a daughter and a brother and a sister. But I'll never forget that kid and his personality. He was always looking out to help everyone else, to help carry somebody's gear when it was too heavy for them. And the impact that he left behind inspired me to keep doing more and more. I'm actually getting a new prosthetic. And when I was going through rehab, and there's a lot of service members that were getting their prosthetics, either legs or arms. And I was looking at them, and I was like, "Oh, show me how that works, show me how that works." And as they pass that around, if you look inside, there's two little sensors built into the cast. And so when I slide it on my arm, it picks up muscle movement. So when I flex my muscles, it sends a signal to the hand, and then each finger stops when it meets resistance, so you have more dexterity to grab different shapes. But the thing I noticed about a lot of the service members, that they were getting tattoos or flags or whatever they wanted on their arm. And I kept thinking to myself, what am I going to get? What am I going to get? And I couldn't decide, so I told them, just do carbon fiber. I'll decide later if I want to add something to it. And I went to a local trophy shop by my house, and I asked the gentleman there to make me a plaque. And I was trying to describe it to him, and he said, "Well, what are you going to do with it?" And I said, "Well, a lot of service members, they wear these black bracelets, and veterans and family members. And what they are is the bracelets have names on them, and they say the names of someone that was killed in action, or a prisoner of war, and so, or missing in action." And so I had a plaque made, and I had it mounted on my arm, and it has all the guys that I've lost from my unit since 2011. And of course, not the best of things, so I'm going to try to do it in paint or something next time, because every time I put on a jacket, the corners tear up my sleeves, and so I started tearing all my jackets up, and I said, "Oh, gotta come up with something else." But for me, if you look on the side of that arm, there's a little clear piece that has a couple little metal buttons, and what you do is it's like an Apple computer. It magnetizes a charger. So at night I take it off and I put it with my cell phone, and I plug it in to charge it. And when I wake up in the morning, I take it off the charger and I put it on. But when I do that, I look at those names. I look at those names and I look at all those ones that were fathers, brothers, and I look at their sacrifice. And I think about how grateful I am to have another day. And so whenever I think that something's hard or something's not fun or it doesn't matter, I think about them. That they don't get to even have a chance to have fun. Their kids miss them. Their brothers, their family miss them. And that's the sacrifice I think about when I see that. But I try to live my life every day to do something great to help others and to better myself. And so I kind of think that's honoring them. And so when I go out and I get to talk to kids, I get to help veterans, I get to help law enforcement, police officers, and first responders. The reason I didn't have a black bracelet, I do have a black bracelet on, but mine's got a thin blue line because I have a lot of friends that are police officers. And I used to always think about it when I was deployed overseas that I'm reliant on the police officers to take care of my family while I'm deployed. I'm reliant on the police officers to take care of my family when I'm home. And so they're always there for us. You hear bad stories every now and then on TV. The military in general you have that many people, you're going to have a few rotten eggs. And it's like looking at an apple orchard. When you see 2 rotten apples, you don't burn the whole orchard. You just throw out the rotten apples. And so it's unfair judgment to put everybody in the same boat when you see something negative. But that's what I tell every person that joins our military, is that you may think you're joining for 2 years, 4 years, whatever it may be. But the truth is, you've signed up for the rest of your life. Because the first time you mess up, who's the first one to catch it? The media. And they're going to put up former Marine, former Ranger, former SEAL, former Special Forces. And it's going to have the negative mark on all of us. And that's what I look at when I go to schools. I will be honest with you. When I walk into a school, the first thing I look at is walking through the school is, do I see trash on the floor? Do I see garbage on the sidewalks, in the grassy area? I mean, to me, that is everyone's responsibility. That's the way I was taught in the military is, you see a piece of trash, you don't just walk by it, you pick it up, even if it's not yours. And so what that does is, that tells me how much pride, and your guys is spotless, by the way, but it tells me that you guys have a lot of pride in your school, and that you take care of it, and that you take care of each other, and that people that come here will see that. And I recognized it myself, that you guys take the time to take care of your school and have pride in your school. Shoot, I know I got your mascot. It's not a falcon, it's a hawk, right?
Yeah. Hawk.
It's, I was a T-bird in high school. And I'll tell you the best part about having a bird is that you can spread your wings. You guys are learning how to fly in junior high. And when you get out to high school, you're going to be starting to spread your wings. And you're going to go out in the world, and you're going to hopefully be, maybe one of you will be the next person that builds the next better robotic prosthetic hand that I could get in the future. And it's making a difference what you all decide to do. You all have an opportunity to be the best potential you can. Who wants to flip burgers at Burger King? For a living? For the rest of your life? It doesn't sound like fun. We need people to do that though, because we like going to the restaurants. But set your goals high. Set your goals high to have a job that you're going to love. And if you get good grades, you're going to get into that job easy. There's a lot of people out there that don't realize how important what you're doing will lead into your future. And if you have a job that you love, then it's never going to feel like work. There's people that have worked their entire lives, even though they've made enough money to do nothing, because they love what they're doing. And that commitment and that passion is what's important. I see a Navy sweater over there, I think. Army, oh, even better. I just saw the, looked like I didn't know why. How many people here have family members that were in the service? Oh, wow. How many veterans do we have with us today? Thank you. Your superintendent, I'm sure he told you he was in the Army, so he's already a buddy of mine now. But thank your families, and thank you, because I tell people that it's not only us that serve, it's our families. We're still in uniform and still protecting us and our country and our way of life. So I have a lot of gratitude from my family for your family's service. But you don't have to go into the service. You don't have to join the military to be a hero. It could be simply listening to somebody's problems, helping somebody with their math homework because you're great at math. It could be, you don't have to be recognized on stage. None of that matters. What matters is that you're making the school a better place, your community a better place, your parents, your teachers, and people around you. You're making them proud of you by making the right decisions, by doing the right thing, by trying your hardest every day. I know I want to take some time too, because I want to allow you all to ask some questions. So does anybody have any questions?
Mine's kind of a question, comment. Well, my grandpa was in the military serving in the Vietnam War.
That I had to get off that helicopter because the mission was dependent on it. I was toward the front, so I had to make sure that everybody else could get out of that helicopter safely. And so it's easy to find that courage. What I said is that word love for your brothers and family and stuff, that it's better than Red Bull. It gives you wings like you wouldn't believe. And that's the thing, is my adrenaline as well was so high that I was so amped up on wanting to protect my guys that even when I grabbed that grenade and the hand came off, I didn't feel any pain. I didn't feel it. I felt the first gunshot wound in my left thigh. It felt like a sledgehammer, but I knew if I didn't get out of there that more bullets were going to shoot me. And so I got out of the place where he was shooting at, and yeah, you find the strength and the courage when you care about something so much. And it's the same way when you see somebody injured or somebody struggling or drowning. If that's in your character to help others, you don't have to worry about finding courage. You'll probably go and then realize afterwards, wow, did I just do that? But thank you for the question. I know the young man here in the gray suit. Yep. I've had him for almost 3 years. And like I said, we're gone a whole lot. We're always on an airplane. So I haven't figured out yet if he hates me, because he always has to get on an airplane. And he always has to go underneath the seat. And he's good at it though. He goes to sleep. And he helps me with my legs to keep me active, to keep me moving. But also when I get a lot of pain, he'll nudge me. Even if I'm in the middle of a conversation, he'll start hitting me until I sit down, because he can sense my pain levels. And so the dogs are amazing. They are so intelligent. We're barely, I think, tapping into their potential. If you look at some of those dogs that are able to sense when somebody has low blood sugar so they can take their insulin, the ones that can sense. You look at animals in general, cats, whatever. You'll hear people telling stories that before they had a heart attack, the cat would come lay on their chest because they knew something was happening. And so they have almost a sixth sense that they can sense what's going on with humans. And and he's my best friend. I can tell him anything, good, bad, and he just looks at me and goes, give me some food. No, they're so smart though, as well. But yeah, he helps me a lot. Yes?
What is your dog's best saying?
My dog's vest, what it says is, working dog, do not pet, service dog. And the reason service dogs say do not pet is because the way they get rewarded is by affection. And so his reward is every now and then you get a treat, but for him, me petting him and showing him that I love him, that's his reward. And so if I let other people pet him, he won't be loyal to me. He'll say, I can go get pet by anybody else. But I also do have another patch on there called Warrior Call. And I'm the spokesman for a campaign we started to help prevent suicide. And it's people calling veterans, checking on neighbors that are in the military, and just seeing how they're doing and getting them help if they need it, so they don't get depressed and whatever issues they might have. And so that's what I'm trying to look out for all the other veterans. The pouch on the side, it has little chicken treats. And I actually had this pouch at home before I got the dog. It's a little grenade pouch, and I thought it was kind of ironic that that's what the grenade looked like that took my hand, so I turned it into his poop bag holder. TSA doesn't like it though, so I take it off when we fly. But now I like him, I love him, but a dog is also a lot of work. It's like having another child. I gotta wake up in the middle of the night if he needs to go to the bathroom. I gotta pick up his droppings, which they're great in the winter. When you pick them up in the bag, it's like a little hand warmer for a little while. In the summer, not so good. Yes. His name's Tommy. Physical therapy. Physical therapy was tough. You're struggling with a lot of pain. But pain is not a bad thing sometimes, because it's the brain telling the body where it's hurt and it needs to heal. And I went through with a lot of other wounded service members, and so some were further along in their recovery, and they motivated me and pushed me. And I was pretty self-motivated though as well. I would try to run away from the nurses when I was first learning to walk again, and they were afraid that I was a risk for falling. So I tried to follow the directions, but I wanted to run. But it was a long process. My son actually, he went with me through a lot of my outpatient therapy, and he was 5 years old at the time, and he would have a blast. He would hang out with all the other wounded veterans and service members, and it really drew into his character, who he is today, because he was babysat by guys that were missing legs, guys that were burned, good percentage of their body, and he looked at them as normal people. He would wrestle with them, and it got me into trouble because Mom called one time. We're in San Antonio. The rest of our family was back in Washington State, and his mom called and said, "How's things going? You having fun with Dad?" And Mom, I hear him on the phone. "Dad's friend put me in a suitcase." I'm going, "Oh." So then I get handed the phone right away, and my wife was saying, "What the heck's going on down there? Do I need to come get him?" And I said, "No, honey. Nobody put him in a suitcase. It's the wrestling move. They wrestle." She's like, "Okay." She thought they put him in an actual suitcase. It's a lot of fun. I'll tell you, having him with me made my recovery easier because he was getting ready for kindergarten at the time. And so he had to learn his ABCs. And so I had to learn how to write all over again. Being right-handed, I had to learn how to write left-handed. I didn't have a prosthetic for a while because I was still healing. I had to learn how to tie my shoes with one hand. A lot of things that you don't think about that are difficult. I still struggle with a lot of stuff today. In fact, this top button on a dress shirt is not easy. And sometimes my hands will cramp. I had to have carpal tunnel surgery on this hand because I used it so much. I had L4 vertebrae in my back removed because it ruptured, because I was picking up everything with my left side and I wasn't bending my knees properly or doing stuff like that. And so people think that you're recovered just because you're out of the hospital. But to be honest, injuries like that are severe, it's a recovery the rest of your life. You'll roller coaster up and down. And that's why you need to have a good friends and people to support you. Yes.
Was it hard to accept the Medal of Honor?
Oh boy, was it hard to accept the Medal of Honor. You know, for me it wasn't. For me, I had the option to get out of the military in 2009, and I had a job I loved I was doing. They let me stay in. So I re-enlisted. I stayed in for an additional 6 years before the medal even got approved. And it was still going through the approval process, and what was going through my mind is, they're not going to approve it. They probably won't approve it because I'm alive, and they hadn't awarded it to a living person at that point. And I said, the second thing, I'm a Ranger, I'm supposed to do more than everybody else. And so I said, if it goes through, great, I'll use that as a platform to help others. If it doesn't go through, then I still have the job I love that I'm doing. And so that day, when I received the Medal of Honor, I knew I wasn't receiving it for me. I looked at everybody that was in the crowd, a lot of the guys that were on the mission with me. I looked at my family, and I looked at the other service members, and I looked at the politicians that were there, and I realized I wasn't accepting it for me. I was accepting it for everyone who has served, everyone who is serving, and especially those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. And for those whose stories we never knew, because nobody survived. I'm going to take one from the back. Yes. The hardest thing I did in training. Wow. Probably Canada. We went and trained in Canada for about a week. It was the coldest I've ever been in my life. And we got back to the barracks. I'm laying in my bed, everybody's sleeping, and I wake up in the middle of the night, both my hands are numb. And so I thought I slept wrong, and my hands fell asleep. And so I'm walking around for a while, and I'm trying to get the feeling back, and I'm smacking it against the wall. Finally, I go to our medic, and I wake him up, and I was like, Doc, I can't feel my hands. They're numb. And he said, well, you have nerve damage. I'm going from extreme cold climate to warm climate in the barracks. And I said, well, when's it going to come back? I've been awake for 2 hours now. And he said, well, the worst part is if it doesn't come back in 2 weeks, you've lost it for the rest of your life. And it took 2 days for it to come back. And so that was a miserable time. I want to add something else, if I can, real quick. Ranger School. They say it's the hardest school in the Army. It's not that hard as long as you don't quit. And people ask me for advice, and they said, there's times that it's terrible. You think it's the worst, and you want to quit. I tell them, look to your left and to your right. I said, there's always going to be somebody that's doing worse than you are. It's on those days that you go pick that person up. Because during that school, you're going to be somebody's left or right. And you're going to hope that somebody comes and picks you up. So, get through it as a team. Yep. What made me want to join the Army? I saw pictures of family members, both my grandparents, some of my uncles. My brother was serving at the time. But you can sit down. Thank you for the question, Adam. But in my house, in my grandparents' house, as soon as you walked into their entrance into their living room, there was families of pictures of family on the wall, and there was pictures of them in their uniform. And they never, and I wish the same thing my grandparents had told me about their service. They never told me about their service, and they're both gone. But when I saw those pictures in their living room as a young kid, even though they didn't talk about it, I knew it was something that they were proud of. Because whoever came into the house, they wanted them to see that picture with our family pictures. And so when I started asking the questions, why do people serve? And I joined before war started. And I didn't know if I was going to have to go to war. All I wanted to do was make a difference to the people back here at home. And kind of for me, it was paying it back. When I grew up in a free country, and I enjoyed all our freedoms and rights and everything because somebody else stood guard. Whether it was time of peace or time of war, somebody else said, I'll go, I'll stand guard. And so that's what my intent was, is that I was going to join for 4 years and probably get out. Well, I got in, and then shortly thereafter, 9/11 happened, and I kept going because I realized there was a need that we were feeling.
Thanks. I was hoping one of my kids would ask, but it's something that we really have to know before you're gone. So this morning in the vignette that we were watching about you had said that when you whispered into Obama's ear, you said something about this is a heavy burden and I'm accepting this. And then we were reading a book and from somebody else, and it said that you said to him that, oh, now I'm left-handed, show me how to write. So I'm curious which one is the truth and what you really did.
Neither.
Okay.
I told him we were up in the Oval Office, and things were crazy with the budget at that time, so everything was kind of being rushed. But I'm looking around the Oval Office because you don't get into the Oval Office all the time. And next thing I feel is arm on my shoulder, and I said, all right, let's get going to the ceremony. And as we're walking out, one of his aides said, Mr. President, aren't you going to sign the citation? And I turned around and I said, yeah, it's not official unless you sign that thing. And so we went back to his desk, and well, that's while he was signing, I was leaning over and I said, I'm new to being left-handed, how do you keep from getting ink and smudging all over my arm? And so he gave me a couple of tips, but during the ceremony, when I whispered in his ear, I got asked that by all the media. Everybody was asking, what did you whisper? Because he had this smile on his face. I said, man, I can make up anything I want. But the truth is, I told him, rarely do you have all the people you want, most of the people you want, under one roof. And it's usually at a funeral. And so they had all those folks there, and it's a celebration of them as well. I was honored.
Does your dog do tricks?
Nope, chases rabbits. Yeah, but when I'm at home or even on the road, and I go to a park or a dog park or off-leash dog park or somewhere in the mountains, I'll take his vest off, and he takes his vest off when he's not. When we go home for the evening or whatever, but he knows when he has that vest on, he's working. And as soon as I grab that vest, he gets really excited. I want to go to work. He loves working because he knows he's providing the service to me what he was trained for. But when I take him to the dog park and I take off his vest, he's a normal dog. He runs around and plays with other dogs. He's a great dog. Yes?
Does he know how to play fetch?
He does. Well, I used to throw the ball with him quite a bit.
What rank were you when you left the military?
I was a master sergeant when I left the military. I was a staff sergeant when I got injured. Yes.
Do you take your dog everywhere?
I do. I try to. There's some places I can't take him. It's just too much for him. If I'm jumping plane to plane for like 5 days in a row, then I won't put that burden on him because he'll start to get anxiety, and I don't want him pooping in the plane. He's actually really good at holding it though. Tommy is a Belgian Malinois. Belgian Malinois are kind of part of the German Shepherd family. The German Shepherds are a little bit bigger. The females of these dogs are actually about half the size. And what a lot of people started going to for service dogs and working dogs for military, law enforcement, is the Belgian Malinois, because the German Shepherds had a problem with their hips. They get hip dysplasia pretty bad. So these guys can keep working for a little bit longer. Yes? Pink sweater. Is it pink or white? I was not still at war in 2011. I was back here in the stateside. I was supporting the wounded, ill, and injured that were coming back and their families, making sure they were well taken care of. Yes?
When did you start being a ranger?
Never. Still a ranger. No, I'm just joking. I was still assigned to the Rangers until I got out in 2014, but I stopped jumping out of planes and doing the typical Ranger thing in 2009. After I got injured, they wanted me to do it, but I didn't want something from this robotic hand. It's great, but it's still a robot hand. And so I didn't want something to fail on my arm that would get somebody else hurt or killed. And so I said, even though I want to, I'm going to step back because it's the right thing for them. Yes?
When 9/11 happened, what was your feeling about it?
Oh, wow. The question was, when 9/11 happened, what was my feelings? I was actually in pre-ranger training out in the woods in Georgia. And I didn't see any of the videotapes of what had happened on television for probably 2.5 months. We had one little shack out there in the woods, and the cadre, the guys that were in charge of us, told us a little bit what they knew was going on, what they saw was going on, and we all were trying to huddle around the shed to learn more. And they yelled at us and said, "Get out there and keep training. You're probably going to be going to war soon." And I don't remember it, but my memory of it is we used to have haircuts that you basically put your hand on top of your head and say, "Cut around it." We used to call them high and tights. They're like a little patch of hair on top of your head, and everybody knew you were in the military when you had that type of haircut. And so there wasn't any place in America that I went to for a period after that people weren't coming up and saying, "Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service." And I was shocked because it was very far and few in between prior to that. And so what I looked at is, I was like, wow, America, patriotism is amazing. America forgot about Democrats and Republicans and politics and everything. They're all supporting. Everybody's supporting them. And there's a good reason, because there was a lot of fear in America. People weren't going to soccer games. They weren't going to football games. They weren't getting on airplanes. They weren't going to concerts. Anywhere there was a big crowd, they weren't going because they were afraid of terrorist attacks. And it seems now that there's still people deployed all over the world. That we've been at it so long that it's kind of faded down. We watched it fade throughout the years. There's still patriotism all over the country, but it's not as big as it was then. And the only thing I could compare it to is what I read about World War II. How Americans came together, how young kids were donating their toys that were metal to be melted down so that they could put armor on the tanks and protect their family and their uncles and their loved ones. And so there was a shortage of metal, and kids were donating their toys and bikes and you name it. And so I was like, wow, that's why they call it the greatest generation. It wasn't just because of the troops. It was the society as a whole came together to support one cause. Yes. You're gonna have to talk a little bit louder. No, they all move together. They haven't quite got it that far yet, but They are coming out with newer ones that are improving all the time. Man, he's tearing apart Spider-Man. When I first got my prosthetic, I asked my prosthetist, can I take it in the water? And he looked at me and he said, yeah, once. And so they've developed a hand that actually you can submerge in water now. It just came out, I think, a month ago. I haven't had time to go check it out. I get asked, a lot of younger kids will ask me, well then if you can't take it in the water, how do you swim? And I said, have you seen that movie Nemo? I said, I just have a short fin on this side. But they're getting better and better advances every day. I try to stay on top of it. Transplants. Transplants are getting better. I have a friend who lost both his arms. He had one arm missing below the elbow on this side, one above the elbow on this side, and both his legs above the knee. And so he had no toes, no fingers, nothing. And back in 2012, he got a double arm transplant. And so they put somebody who had died, they put that person's arms on his body. And 2014, he drove with his dog. He's got a Belgian Malinois too, but with his dog from Dallas, Texas to New York by himself. And so he can't move his fingers as fast as you and I, but he's got enough mobility and he can sense hot and cold, and it's pretty amazing. Everything's getting better. My neighbor just turned 103. People might start living forever. Yes? When I wash my hands, do I only wash one? No, I try to use hand sanitizer to wash the other one, or I'll wash it in the sink. It has this rubber glove over it just for protection from water and dust and stuff like that. So as long as I don't have any holes in my glove, I'll wash it lightly. Yes, you guys are awesome. You guys ask a ton of great questions.
How do you feel about the war today?
How do I feel about the war today?
Yeah.
Iraq is kind of hard. That place, I don't know if we'll ever change it there. Afghanistan, we have made such a positive impact there that what you don't see on TV is there's a lot of Afghan soldiers that are being killed. Their numbers are probably well over ours for the past 10 years. But they're starting to fight for their own country. There's pilots, they're dropping their own bombs, they're going after bad guys, and they're trying, because the kids that were 5 years old when we first went in there in 2001, this is 18 years later. They're 25, 24, mid-20s. Everybody's watched this happen, and they've seen the impact on their country positively. And so the ones that want the change and want to have a better country are fighting for it.
Last question.
Oh, man. I could stay here all evening.
I know.
Can you say it again? When I picked up the grenade, was I afraid? No. I knew if I didn't do that, that they were probably going to get killed. Because what you're trained to do is you're trained to, when a grenade comes in, you're supposed to roll away from it. And they had their backs kind of turned, and so right as I reached over and I grabbed it, that's when they turned around and they saw it. And I threw it. When I threw it with all my force. I was sitting down because my legs were hurt so bad, and I was watching the corner of my side. And so when I threw it and I opened my hand, that's when it exploded. And I sat up, and I got a lot of shrapnel in my legs and my arm, but because I had my head down, my helmet took a lot of the shrapnel, and I had my eye protection on. And it also, I have those at home. They're covered in blood, and they got shrapnel in them, and saved my eyes. But I was never afraid. What I was afraid of is if I didn't grab it, and they got killed. Then I was afraid that I'd have to live with that. And I know we're running out of time, but I want to thank you all. I wish I could answer all your questions. Hopefully I'm down in California again and I can come back and visit the high school when some of you are all in high school. Those of you all that are still here, but I do want to, you got him. My son's not going to be happy, he loves Spider-Man. I do want to leave you with something though. How many of you all know what a military challenge coin is? Okay, these were given out to, well, at first a pilot went down behind enemy lines and was captured by the Allies. And they were going to kill him with all the other guys. And he didn't have any identification to identify himself. All he had was his coin. And so he showed him the coin, and it bought him enough time to keep him alive until they identified him, and he was released back to the U.S. And his commander, when they got him back, said, everyone in our unit will always carry their unit coin with them. And since then, pro sports teams have given them out, commanders give them out for excellence, and they kind of go by rank. And what we used to do is, if you call it a challenge coin, because you slap it on the table and whoever has the lowest ranking one had to pay for lunch or whatever. If you were in formation in uniform and you dropped it, everybody had to pull out theirs, and if they didn't have it, they were doing push-ups. And this is my challenge coin. And on the front, it has the Medal of Honor Society seal, and then it has my name, a Medal of Honor, a 2-diamond, which represents the Rangers of World War II that scaled the cliffs of Pointe du Hoc, current 2nd Ranger Battalion, tab and scroll, our distinguished unit insignia, May 26, 2008, the date I was, for which I was awarded the medal. And then on the sides, I have a gold star and a blue star. Does anybody know what a blue star family is, or a gold star family? Okay, for those of you that don't know, a blue star represents you'll see flags sometimes with a blue star in the middle. It represents someone that has a loved one deployed. And for a gold star, that means that they've lost somebody killed in combat. A brother, father, uncle, mother, sister, whatever. And so I put those on there to remember them as well. And then my name's at the top, and at the bottom, our motto, Rangers Lead the Way. And so I am 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, right? I'm leaving 4 of these coins with my friend Marilyn. And it'll be up to her and your teachers to decide who embodies these characteristics the most at the end of the year. And I wish I had one for all of you. Unfortunately, I don't, but I challenge you with this. Whether or not you get the coin, continue to embody those characteristics throughout your life. You surround yourself with good people and you make good decisions, good things will happen. Thank you again for having me here today, and thank you for taking the time.
He's excited.
On behalf of the High Desert School, we'd like to give you our Medal of Honor coin that us kids get. And we'd also like to thank you for coming and sharing your experiences here with us. And it's a great honor to have you here.
Thank you very much.
And this is a gift from us to you.
You guys didn't have to. That was an honor for me. I was supposed to be headed home yesterday, and told them I wanted to come by. They were going to ask me just to do the video, and I said, "You want me to stay?" I said, "I have to call home and ask my wife," but she said yes. She said, "You guys are important." So my family knows how important you guys are, what you're learning and what you're doing. So on behalf of all of us, thank you. I'm so